All right, thanks for tuning in this week at Vorshlag. It's June 15th, 2015. Let's take a walk around the shop, see what kind of projects we got working on. So here you can see the chassis we're building from scratch for a 69 Camaro, customer's Pro Touring track car. He brought it to us with a frame and front and rear subframes built by outside companies, and they all had some serious problems as far as engineering and functionality, and we basically started over from scratch. We're going to reuse his rear end and a few other pieces, maybe the motor and trans, part of the body. But this is the kind of work we can do. All the suspension geometry was modeled in 3D, suspension simulation software for good anti-squat, anti-dive, camber curves, dynamic geometry. This has got a Moser 9-inch aluminum center section, the wave track limited slip that we ordered direct from Moser. With the gear ratio we calculated out he needs for the tires he's using. 3-link rear, watch link. Front suspension is all custom. It is C6 Corvette uprights, upper and lower control arms, Willwood big brakes, and then all the frame and structure is all made by Ryan here at our shop. There's still some tubes that aren't quite there yet. There's a lower structure that'll go in here, but it'll be removable so you can remove the oil pan with the motor still in the car. Good camber curves. The original front end it came with couldn't get more than -1 degree of camber, which is just not adequate for modern radial tires and track use, and had some pretty squirrely mounts. Whereas this can get up to 4 degrees of negative camber static, and you can adjust it all right here with shims behind the upper Corvette mounts. It's going to have a Woodward rack with servo for power steering. That's going to go in this area here. It had some Mustang Fox steering rack. It's just no good. So this is an off-the-shelf production front end made for this chassis. It's got some pretty squirrely features to it, and the geometry was just no good for track use, so we just started over. We're actually going to tie in the upper mounts directly into the cage and not the superficial stuff here. So the engine's pretty standard, LS3. But it's got a dry sump and a G-force straight cut gear, race transmission. So it'll be a track only car. So the motor's going to go back in the firewall a pretty good ways. It's probably going to sit about like that. So it'll have good front to rear weight bias. We're trying to bias the weight on the rear axle by like 52-53%. That's the goal. But it's still all steel body. And we're going to build, the frame will sit right inside the lower rockers, and we'll build a cage in there that's safe and correct. Should be pretty nice. So these are the rear wheels, 345/30/19 Hoosier A6. So it's going to be built around a big Hoosier rear and a 315/30/18 front. So a nice wheel and tire package for a 2,800 pound Camaro. It should work out pretty well. Good work on the FR-S this week. Computer number 2 actually allowed the car to start and run and throttle to actuate because it's a LS2 electronic throttle. Wasn't working before, we just had a bad ECM, just a fluke. But the throttle pedal, the LS2 throttle body, and the computer are all LS2 Corvette. It's an LS1 motor. It's a long story, but this will work together, and it does start and drive. And we've got a black box coming this week. We've been working with for about a year, and it's finally in development, and it's released, and it'll allow us to talk to all the gauges and allow the electric steering to work supposedly. So we'll know pretty soon. But yeah, this is kind of semi-discombobulated right now because doing some troubleshooting, trying to figure out what was wrong. We swapped out the throttle body, the pedal, and finally it was a computer that was bad. So we've been chasing our tail for a couple weeks on that, just here and there when we got time to work on it. But glad that thing starts and runs now. And Sean from True Street's going to come back, deprogram the VAT system, the anti-theft system, take it out of that computer so it's not looking for a GM key to start, which it is right now. It'll start and run for about 2 seconds and shut off. But it fires all the relays in the right order, and the throttle actuates, so really excited. This will be driving very, very soon. Sounds good. Nice and quiet. real subtle. You wouldn't know it had a V8 unless you really opened it up. So this is the 99 Miata, another Alpha car, our first swap, also LS1 power. We're going to use an LS2 intake manifold. Just got one of these this week, complete with fuel rails and injectors, sensors. It's got the Corvette front suspension. The shocks are in place. Our custom built Bilstein ASN eye-to-eye shocks on our Corvette front suspension, front spindle, custom upper and lower A-arms. C5 Corvette brakes up front. All built in-house here at Vorshlag. And out back we got something special planned. We had some physical constraints in here as far as the shock placement. And we've got good articulation in the rear suspension. I've got a rod in here right now to simulate the center line for the axle. But it articulates up and down. There's a lot of suspension travel. But there wasn't a lot of room for the shock, so we got something special planned for that. We'll show that next time. Alright, so Project Danger Zone, our C4 Corvette, still has no motor. Engine builder didn't get us back into us in time for the race this last weekend with NASA at Hallett. A little disappointing, but I only gave him 2.5 weeks, so it was an unrealistic timeline. But that should be rebuilt soon. We'll probably do a test event in July and hopefully get it ready before Nationals in September. We still got to cut 2 bars out on the other side, and this bar here will lower below the top of the tire, which is not written in the rules, but it's the unwritten rule. C4 Corvette, we got a C5 and a C6 over here we'll look at next. So this is a C5 Corvette 2002 Coupe, Mark Council's car. We've done a lot of work on this. I've showed it in previous videos. We finally got the MCS shocks this week. We're doing the TT2 internal doubles, and we're going to make a custom spherical top mount and remove the factory transverse monolith springs and go with a coilover spring. Should allow us to stiffen the spring rates quite a bit. We'll probably triple the front, double the rear. That seemed to work out really well in the C4, and cut a lot of the dive and roll out of the car because it was really sloppy, even driving it on street tires. And we got till this weekend. Mark's going to run it at an autocross on some Hoosiers this weekend, so trial by fire. He said he'd never autocross it. Of course, first event he's going to do in it, it's going to be an autocross. It's all good. All right, here we got a C7 2015 Corvette, the new generation, Z06, so supercharged engine, bunch of horsepower. It's got the Z07 aero package, and you'll note all the flares and scoops and splitters. And we've made a few parts on this car, carbon ceramic brakes. Car's still fairly heavy, 3570 with about 3/4 tank of fuel. And I'll show that weight. We just weighed a few minutes ago. We installed a license plate bracket they wanted, but our guys here machined custom tow hooks front and rear that actually screw right into factory holes. You don't have to drill anything in the body, fits through the grill, and then this can be unscrewed and removed between events so it doesn't flop around and bang into the grill. But very handy if you get stuck off track, because the wrecker guys they'll yank on anything just to get it off the track. So this is what you want. If you're going to do track events, you're eventually going to get stuck off track once, and this might be $100 a corner, but it could save you thousands in potential damages. So again, this car has the optional Z07 aero package, got an adjustable spoiler in the back, and all sorts of carbon fiber. Some really cool things on this car. Some cooling air comes in here, goes through a cooler, exhausts through the tail lights on both sides. Neat stuff. We made another tow hook for the back. Again, there's a little panel that pops out. This goes into factory threaded holes. And inside the hatch area, we actually made the first C7 harness bar that actually allows you to keep the factory seat belts. The other kits we saw took the easy route. There's 2 other harness bars out for the C7, and there's a lot of complicated stuff behind that panel. The retracting wheel auto retracts in a crash and has slacks to drive around the street. That's the best place to mount it, but it's not the right place to mount it by pulling those out. So we made this complicated structure that goes around that retracting wheel and mounts this very securely, but it's also removable here and there, 2 bolts, and the whole thing can come out. It's a roll cage kick-out bar mount we've used before on drag race cars. Really strong. This one's 1 3/4. Our production will probably be 1.5 inches, and we've already made a fixture off of a lot of this, so this will be in production pretty soon. Give you a good place to mount the shoulder harnesses. Again, one of the complicated things about Corvettes is they have a composite floor. There's not a lot of metal down there, but the factory seatbelt mounts are great anchor points, and so we're reusing the seat bracket mounting points for a custom harness anchor set. So the submarine belts will go in these inner ones, and the outer will be the lap belts. So 6-point belts will all go in really solid anchors, and these are the clip-in style for a Schroth harness. Bolts right in, no drilling, no cutting. The only cutting involved on our harness bar install is the inner trim panels, and we're going to offer those pre-cut, so you can buy those and just replace the pieces. Make installation a breeze. It's all powder coated, all made right here at Vorshlag. All right, it's kind of loud in here. I don't know how much we can hear. Shannon's in here working on Solidworks. We're just shooting a video. It's all good. So Shannon's in here loading both the lathe and the mill and doing some Solidworks. This is our new S550 camber plate. This is how it comes out of the mill. We give it kind of a brush finish on some Scotch-Brite. And we rinse it off. And we'll dry it off, and this is how it goes to get anodized. It comes out a pretty red. So this is one of the operation stops we do. We're making 2 of these at a time. The front side already been machined, and then we put them in this fixture to do the back side. And this is the final operation on side 2. We'll take these pieces of billet out, and then we'll close it back up, come down, and I'll just go around the perimeter of the part. And it does this final chamfer right here. You can see we break that edge. So we're taking some 1-inch bar and we're cutting it down to make these upper spools in the CNC lathe. It goes really fast. It makes several at a time. And we use hundreds of these a month. So she's actually working on the threaded shaft for the C7 tow hooks. And we'll machine these out of steel, have them plated, and then include the tow hook screws on the end. This will screw into the body and our tow hook goes on there. Pretty slick. Yep, all finished. Yeah, I just did the final outer chamfer here. So we'll undo these 2 cleats and we'll grab another plate, flip it over, and it goes on the fixture. It cuts out the perimeter and does the chamfer. Last but not least, we have a E36 LS1 and a little bit of a voltage draw, and the guys have been tracing the wires and just figured it out. So this is the fun part of doing an LS swap, is all the wiring. Just a final little bit of the work on this car, and it's going back to the customer. See, John's got a lot of camber plates built and staged. We're just waiting on one or two pieces from the plater, a bunch of these top rings. And a lot of camber plates have been going out this week and will be for the next several weeks. A couple more LS1 kits. Those are really hot right now. MCS shocks, we're selling a couple sets of those a week, sometimes 3. They're really moving. This is for an E36 and has our camber plates and upper shock mounts. So good stuff. All right, that's it for this week, June 15th. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.